Secrecy and under tight security, Tasmanian authorities have moved Martin Bryant from his hospital room to a maximum security prison. It came after a former girlfriend of Bryant's gave an insight into the man charged with one of last Sunday's murders at Port Arthur.
1:30 this afternoon, 1 week to the hour after the Port Arthur massacre began, and Martin Bryant was moved from Royal Hobart Hospital to Tasmania's top security Risdon prison.
Apparently the doctors have made that judgment today that he can be treated properly at the special unit at Risdon, and they've taken that course.
Bryant will be held here in a specially prepared unit under 24-hour video surveillance. He will be utterly isolated from other prisoners, partly to protect him from possible violence.
People are going to want to get access to him as best they can, and it's going to be our job to stop that.
6 of the most seriously injured victims remain here at the hospital. They were known to have been particularly traumatised by the continued close presence of Martin Bryant. The move was partly to ease their minds, partly also to cut short the threats that have plagued hospital staff. 1 week on, and the bells of Hobart that have tolled for everyone this week rang also today in the shocked ears of Bryant's former girlfriend, interviewed for tonight's 60 Minutes.
It's not him. It can't be. He wouldn't do this.
But they might have the wrong person.
I used to think that, but I mean, I have to accept that he done it. Okay, something just had, something snapped, something must have.
From his home in suburban Hobart, Glenn Martin, the son of the murdered owners of the Seascape Guest House, insists the massacre was not carried out using his weapons that were kept there. He does not believe gun laws should be changed. While Bryant waits for the turn of justice, it'll be many more weeks before Port Arthur is again remembered more for its beauty than for the taking of beauty. Hugh Rimmington, National 9 News, Hobart.
Going home, they found, as I did, that the close-knit Tasmanian community was in a state of shock. In the weeks to come, it's a mood that will no doubt turn to anger over lax gun laws and over the recent cuts to mental health services. Blame will be apportioned. But for now, Tasmanians are numbed by their loss of innocence. Tasmania was always remote and safe from this kind of thing, a good place to grow up, an even better place to raise kids. And now, in half an hour, on a sunny Sunday afternoon, one man with a gun has changed everything.
Walter John Bennett, Sarah Crate Lawton, Pauline Masters.
I'd never realised how long it could take to read 35 names.
Winifred Aplin.
The litany of the slaughtered was a breaking point for many Tasmanians at this memorial service last Wednesday.
Helene Salzman.
Tears that had been bitten back started to flow as the dead were named.
Tony Kirsten. Kate Scott.
The man who read that death toll to a worldwide audience was Hobart radio announcer Rick Patterson.
Did you nearly lose it towards the end?
No, I lost it as soon as I turned the microphone off at the end. That's when I lost it for a while.
What happened?
Had a good cry. Went to the pub.
What no one knew at that service was that the mother of the accused was attending inside the church. We saw her only fleetingly, a distraught figure swept through the crowd by police and family friends.
Australia's smallest state is run from the nation's smallest parliament. But the dreams that they dreamed here were always big ones. I can remember reporting the debates. This hydroelectric scheme or this tourist project will really put Tasmania on the map. They never did, of course, nor did anyone here ever realise that when Tasmania finally was put on the map, what a terrible price would be paid.
This is the CBS Evening News. One American is among the injured in what is being described as the worst massacre this century.
Hundreds of police are surrounding a cottage where a gunman is holding 3 hostages after killing...
The stories flashed around the globe from tiny remote Tasmania included lurid accounts of a man obsessed with bestiality and violence.
Some of it is based on truth, of course, but most of it is an exaggeration.
So some of this bizarre stuff
Yeah.
Just not true at all?
No.
Janita Moani, a college student in Hobart, knew Martin Bryant for about 8 months. During that time, he was living in a large inherited house in Hobart.
Did you visit his house in Clare Street?
Yeah.
In Hobart? What was it like in there?
Typical sort of... As far as the kitchen went, it was filthy. I mean, yeah, it was dirty, but that was typical. Sort of men.
Typical of a bloke living alone?
Yeah.
Bit of a pigsty?
Yep.
Speaking of pigsties, there's a story that he had a pet pig.
No. Had no pets there.
The story about him taking a pig to bed? Not true?
He could have, but... He could have slept with his pig, but that's because he loves animals. I mean, I slept with my cat.
Did your parents feel he was too old for you, though?
No, I mean, his house was full of teddy bears. He wanted to always go to the show. When the Hobart show was on, we also went to the Launceston show for the rides. He loved the rides, he absolutely loved them. Loved show bags. I mean, he was a little boy.
A big kid?
Yeah.
The mother was carrying the 3-year-old baby when they were both shot, and the 6-year-old ran away trying to escape and was shot in the process.
By week's end, it was hard to believe that the old convict ruins at Port Arthur, now bathed in autumn sunshine, had been the scene of such carnage. Tasmanians have always been grimly reserved about this place. They tend to leave it to the tourists.
I remember as a schoolboy learning about this place, learning about the convict years and what a hellhole it had been for thousands of souls who suffered here. And I remember at the same time that even then, the old people would always say, oh, they ought to bulldoze it into the ground. They ought to get rid of it. It was as if this was a chapter in Tasmanian history, written here, that people wanted to rip out of the book forever.
In the aftermath of the massacre, people are already talking about demolishing the Broad Arrow Cafe, where so many were gunned down. But for now, the building is sealed and the windows whitewashed to hide the horror within. All over Tasmania, people are asking why. Nowhere more poignantly than in this wreath dedicated to a slain child.
When did you first learn that he was the accused in the Port Arthur massacre?
Well, I was at college, and I saw it in the paper. It just said Martin, and that his father had died a few years ago, and I made the connection.
It just came to you. And did other things start to make sense then? Or did it still seem beyond belief?
I can't believe he done it. I mean, I just can't. It's not him. It can't be. He wouldn't do this.
What? They might have the wrong person.
I used to think that, but I mean, I have to accept that he done it. Okay, but something snapped, something must have.
As the police continue to sift for evidence that will establish who and how, we might best look for why among those closest to the perpetrator.
What about guns? Did you know that he had an interest in guns?
No, definitely not. No.
You never knew that? Not even after you broke up? Did you meet his mother on many occasions?
Yes.
Did she intimate, suggest to you that there may be problems you should be watching out for, personality problems?
She told me he was schizophrenic.
Did she know that for sure, or was that just an opinion?
No, she knew.
Had she had him diagnosed?
Yes.
Did you know what that meant?
Yes. Yep.
But it wasn't necessarily grounds for concern, was it, for you?
Well, I dropped him 4 days after she told me.
So it was?
Yeah.
Why? That question. Why? It's a question all Tasmanians are asking. It's the one I've been asking for the last few days. In fact, about the only thing I've been asking. I don't have the answer, but I can see two themes here. Two lines, if you like. Not running parallel, but slowly converging. On the one hand, a society where there is an availability of military-style weapons. And on the other hand, a society which is somehow unable to pinpoint a among its members the type of people who can commit acts like that. And where those two lines intersect, you have Port Arthur, Tasmania, last Sunday.
Of course, he must be a monster now. But he wasn't always like this. He's one of the nicest guys I've met.
Is there somewhere in our hearts we should be feeling sorry for him?
I can't expect that. All the people that died over it, all the people he's killed, maybe he should be killed. Maybe I wish he'd just killed himself at the scene.
What do you do now?
I don't know. Try and just get on with my life as best as possible and put this behind me. I don't know. Part of me wants to apologise for what's happened, but it's not my fault. Don't hate me because I went out with him.
I don't think anyone's going to hate you because you went out with him. I think most people probably think you had a very lucky escape. Have you thought that yourself?
I don't think he would have killed me. No way.
Royce Thompson, Jason Winter, Nanette Meachak, Alana Meachak, Madeline Meachak, David Martin, Sally Martin, Mary Rose Nixon, Janet Quinn, Andrew Mills, Elizabeth Howard, Mary Howard, Mervyn Howard, Peter Nash, Kevin Vincent Sharp, Raymond J. Sharp.
Reporter John Hill joins us from our Hobart studio. John, what sort of conditions is Bryant being held in?
Jason, he's being held in the prison hospital in a special isolation ward of the prison hospital. He's the only prisoner in that section. We're told there is already 24-hour video surveillance of the room, and also there's a person watching him around the clock as well.
Right. Can you also confirm those reports from interstate that Martin Bryant's relatives are receiving police protection?
Yes, apparently that is the case. There have been several threats against the family. Relatives interstate, they've obviously been concerned. The police here feel that they could be a target of a revenge attack, and they've asked interstate police services to consider those relatives for witness protection programs in those states.
A very delicate situation all round. I imagine the patients and staff at the Royal Hobart Hospital would have breathed a collective sigh of relief.
Well, I think so, Jason. The hospital was really stressing out. Lots of people there. The staff had lots of problems. The bomb threats on Friday really made the situation worse, and I think they were very pleased to get rid of Martin Bryant in the end. There was a security concern on his life. Obviously, the police were very jumpy, so a good move all round for the hospital.
And back down the road at Port Arthur, the historic site reopened on the weekend with what results?
Well, it was a very subdued reopening. Lots of people went there to mourn and to grieve and just to have a look and try and come to terms with it in their own minds. The Tasmanian authorities are, obviously they've got two problems. Tourism, that's one of the state's premier tourist spots. But the other thing is they're encouraging people here in Hobart or people in the area who were personally affected by what happened last Sunday to go there and just be there and think about what happened, think about their own role in it and the friends and relatives to assist the grieving process and try and start the healing process, the huge process that's going to have to take place here in Tasmania for thousands and thousands of people.
John, thanks for joining us this morning. John Hill, who's been reporting on the massacre and the aftermath from Hobart.
Thanks, Jason.